Georgia has one of the highest maternal mortality rates in the nation, and the issue is even worse among black women. We should expand coverage for new mothers from 6 months to a year, to a full year, to drastically cut down on these deaths by giving new mothers health care coverage for the full time they are recovering. I agree that it's past time to reward our hard-working state employees, but we need to invest in our entire workforce. This is the perfect time to raise the minimum wage to $15 per hour. We've all seen the help wanted signs. Low-wage employers are doing their best to avoid doing the one thing that would fill those jobs, which is to pay a living wage. We've spent the past 2 years calling people essential workers, and then they are surprised that they want to be paid a living wage for that essential work. Raising the minimum wage would now be fair because it would apply to all employers, and all would have to survive off one working job. The governor is proud of the workforce in Georgia, but he fails to name one of the most important elements of labor: child care. Child care is a massive expense for many families, and one that many cannot afford at all. Not only is this a major burden on families, it is a drain on the economy because there are parents that would work, except child care costs more than they would make working. Ensuring that families don't have to pay more than 7% of their income in child care costs is surprisingly affordable, especially because increased income tax revenue from more people working would cover a good chunk of the cost. Finally, we need to invest in our schools and students. I am glad that the governor is finally fulfilling his promise to raise teachers' pay. But there is so much more needed in education, especially right now. Online school has exacerbated the learning gap between students of means and students without means. We need more teachers, more substitute teachers, and more paraprofessionals to work with kids that fell behind over the past 2 years, or else some of these students will never catch up. Remember that the B in QBE stands for basic. While doing the basic minimum is important, we can go beyond that and shoot for excellence. I don't think anyone here is surprised that the governor did not discuss voting rights. Everyone's vote is sacred, and access to the polls is essential to the health of our democracy. Georgia is at the heart of national politics, and it's important to step up and lead by example and become the best state for voting rights. Unfortunately, the majority party has chosen to go the other way and make it harder to vote. These blatant tactics to suppress the vote and voters of color is inexcusable. The very idea that the partisan state elections board can come to a heavily minority county and take over the elections process through a purely partisan process should terrify everyone. The majority has also attacked voting by mail. People like to vote by mail. I know that everyone here is hoping that the pandemic will be over and we can safely vote in person this year. But a lot of voters like being able to vote from home and look up and find information on all the candidates. It's a disservice to make that harder. The eyes of the nation are on Georgia. Voters here are paying attention too. Y'all may have it hard, make it harder to vote, but people will still turn out. It may be more inconvenient, but voters know who is inconveniencing them. And they're going to vote those people out of office. Because while Republicans are preoccupied with invented problems designed to create division, Democrats are devoted to solving the real problems Georgians face in their daily lives. We are focused on policies that move Georgia forward so our people can thrive. Democrats have workable, ready-to-go ideas that will help more Georgians to get health insurance, good-paying jobs, access to college, and affordable housing. We are the party of prosperity. Thank you for your time, and if there's time left over, I'm happy to answer questions. And next to the podium, I will bring up the fabulous leader from the House, Dr. James Beverly.
Thank you, Leader Butler, and good afternoon. Georgians simply deserve better. Governor Kemp continues to play politics instead of solving the problems that Georgians face every day, putting even more firearms on the street with no oversight, passing even more tax cuts that only benefit the well-off, and wasting time in the courts in a frivolous lawsuit against the Biden administration. Amen. That's our governor's vision for Georgia. A race to the right to kick off his campaign while everyday Georgians need solutions. Our Republican colleagues in the state legislature are following right along with bills that ban books from libraries and schools, based on a deep-seated fear of our real past. Not to mention that the majority's recently passed map undermines the representation of Georgia voters everywhere. The political tides are changing. The 2022 campaign season will remind us all that it will take all of us working together to bring Georgia into one focus, one Georgia. COVID-19. Over 35,000 Georgians have died from COVID-19 over the past 2 years. So many of these deaths were preventable. The governor failed our state, our health, and our economy. The funding is on the table to expand health care to 500,000 Georgians, 500,000 Georgians, and it's been there for years. Unless the governor acts to expand Medicaid, Georgia's leaving billions of federal dollars on the table every year by refusing to expand Medicaid. As the Senate mentioned earlier, the governor is more concerned with getting guns in the hands of people than vaccines in the arms of our citizens. Safety must be a priority for all Georgians. Common sense firearm safety measures like safe storage, gun locks, and proven measures to keep Georgians safer, especially children, should be a part of this conversation. Background checks, mandatory waiting periods for firearm purchases, and red flag laws keep firearms out of the wrong hands and truly saves lives. This is how we begin to build a stronger Georgia with bold leadership that stares this moment in the face and refuses to flinch. This is how we work toward one Georgia. Now, raising teachers' pay raise was the right thing to do. But Georgia has more to do if we're going to prevent the kind of education staffing losses we've seen in recent years. We're still below the national salary average for teachers, and we should be doing more to protect teachers' health in this pandemic. We should be also dedicating a greater share of our budget to funding our schools so that teachers have the resources they need to help kids. Listen, a one-time pay raise is not enough. Not for bus drivers and nutritional staff and other staff that make up the backbone of our schools. We've seen the impact of this reflected in the shortages across the state. The Democrats, as you see here on this stage, on these steps in the halls of the Gold Dome, are focused on legislation that helps all Georgians. Not just the ones who want to take a handgun into Panera without having to fill out some paperwork beforehand. CRT is not a real issue, not in Georgia schools. And the so-called push against it is a manufactured cultural war meant to distract people from the real issues students and teachers face, such as budget shortfalls, COVID challenges, and teacher burnout. Vague bans create fear among educators and will lead to more people leaving the field or deciding not to go into it to begin with. We need more teachers, especially teachers of color, to stay in place. What's the benefit of making it more easier for people to carry concealed weapons, aside from allowing Kemp to score political points with the far-right voters he's hoping that will stick with him in this primary? Is it right for the governor to hold us all hostage with these egregious gun laws so that he can remain competitive in this primary? Constitutional carry undermines the very laws we have in the state to regulate gun use and ownership. It takes away the rights of ordinary people to feel safe in public places. It's another way of saying gun proliferation. More guns for more people in more places is the wrong direction for Georgia. Safe communities are stronger communities, as the governor said. However, constitutional carry is 100% political, 0% public safety. We have seen the high cost of ignoring COVID as it has on the population of our economy. Now, Kemp's lack of leadership when it comes to testing, treatment, and vaccination has contributed to more than 30,000 deaths. You can't shrug your shoulders and instruct Georgians to hunker down when hundreds of thousands of Georgians lack health insurance and don't have a doctor. We have whole counties with only a handful of practicing physicians. Bragging about keeping our state open for business is ignoring the real cost of the governor's actions and attitude about this pandemic. Georgia's economy thrives because of our hardworking people and welcoming culture, but we need to acknowledge that many are left behind. Low wages are barriers to accessing health care. And poor public transportation means some of our hardest working Georgians are still struggling to make ends meet. We need a $15 an hour minimum wage, protection for gig workers, Medicaid expansion, and investment in mass transit so all Georgians have equal opportunity to thrive. Now, I applaud the governor for offering to extend maternal care. But this pandemic has revealed cracks in our child care infrastructure that many working parents have been aware of for far too long. Georgia has seen a 25% decline in child care workers over the last 5 years, according to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and many of our child care workers are poorly underpaid, living in poverty wages, while the cost of child care still continues to rise and out of reach for many families. His plan, if you would call it that, is unsustainable. I turn it over to the chair of the Senate, my dear friend, Senator Elena Parent.
Thank you, Leader Beverly. Amidst multiple crises here in Georgia, the governor's reckless push to eliminate the few regulations we have on guns in people's hands deserves another mention. Our state is facing unprecedented challenges. The people of Georgia are facing health issues, mental health issues, and economic hardships. It is terrifying that rather than respond to these challenges and offer real solutions, the governor is sending the message that a gun and more guns is the answer. The timing of this reckless push to deregulate guns could not be worse. The rate of gun deaths among children is up more than 50% over what it was only 2 short years ago, according to the CDC. Most of these are accidents where children find guns that are not safely stored and are lying around because there are so many guns everywhere. This is a public health emergency. In Georgia, you can purchase a gun through gun shows or private sale with no background check at all, and there is almost no oversight as to what happens after that. The police chief of South Fulton recently told the New York Times people are buying these weapons without getting the right type of education. This was in an article where the New York Times delved into the high rate of accidental child gun deaths here in our state. But what is our governor's solution to this public health crisis? Even less regulation, zero safety education, no safe storage requirements, and zero paperwork to fill out before you decide to take your loaded gun to that Panera or to the playground. We have heard a lot from the governor about the people's need to be able to protect themselves, but nothing about safety education or training. Nothing about what responsible gun ownership looks like. Nothing about mental health resources, suicides committed by gun, or safe storage. In a recent survey, over 80% of gun owners, non-gun owners, Republicans and Democrats and independents, agreed that high safety standards are critical when issuing concealed carry permits. So why on earth is the governor proposing that we eliminate ours? Well, there's no doubt in anyone's mind that this is just about politics. It's about primary challengers and re-election prospects. The safety of kids, of ordinary people, as well as law-abiding gun owners, is not the consideration. It doesn't seem that the governor is interested enough in actually protecting Georgia's families, because all of the proven policies that he is refusing to implement would save lives right now. Medicaid expansion, lowering prescription drug prices, expanding COVID testing and vaccination programs. It bears repeating that instead, unfortunately, our governor is choosing to prioritize putting guns in hands over shots in arms. And it is not making Georgia safer. It's literally killing Georgians. But the people of Georgia have a choice. They can exercise their most precious constitutional right, the right to vote and elect different leadership for the state of Georgia. Democrats have a bright and unifying vision of our state, not this dark and dangerous one. We have clear ideas about making health care, child care, and education more affordable. We can all thrive and we can all be safer, and we can do it if we move forward together. Thank you. It's my honor to call to the podium the whip of the